What's going on, everybody? All right, so today I wanted to talk about why I buy lower graded cards. I'm not a person who goes out and buys high grade cards. Now, keeping in mind that's all relative, right? What is high grade, what is low grade, kind of depends on what it is. You know, if we're talking about a 1880s card, a 5 I think is a high grade. A 6 is a really high grade. Anything above that is just, crazy. But I'm just not a person who tends to go for the higher grades. I am about the eye appeal. I am about when I look at a card in front of me, how does it look? Does it look, is there anything distracting about it? Is there anything about it that drives me crazy? Or is it pretty appealing? Now, I'll buy cards with wrinkles. I have cards with wrinkles. I have cards with rounded corners. I have cards that aren't perfectly centered. But for the most part, what I try to do is buy a card that when I look at it, I go, oh man, that's a nice looking card. And whatever the grade is the grade. Now, keep in mind, I've shown this clip a couple of times and I want to continue to harp on it because it's important. I have said now for a couple of years that PSA grades and SGC grades or whatever grading company, it's an opinion. It is the grade that grader assigned the card. It is not a fact that that's the card's grade. It is an opinion that that's the card's grade. And that's really important. And you say, Greg, okay, Greg, here we go again. Here. No. Let me again remind you of this clip. Take a look at what PSA's president said. This is the president of PSA grading. Look at what he said. Remember, these are his words. Take a look.
We can tell certain cards if we've seen them before. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to get the same grade because it's a grader's opinion and there's ranges and standards. So it could grade something differently. Just because it got a PSA 8 the first time doesn't mean it's always going to get a PSA 8. It could get a 9. It could get a 7. It could get a 7.5.
Okay, guys, it's not me who says that a grader's grade is an opinion. That's the PSA's president. See, but here's the problem. This is the problem with when he says that. And it's only a problem because we've made it a problem. Not PSA's made it a problem, but the card collecting community has made it a problem. When he says, a card could get an 8. Say you send it in and it gets an 8, right? If you send it in again, it could get a 9, right? Now you look at these two cards, these Rickey Henderson rookie cards, and they look very, very similar. But one was assigned an 8 and one was assigned a 9. And then he said you could send it in again and it could get a 7. Now, we've got 3 cards here. All of them look very similar. And the president of PSA is saying, yeah, you send a card in once, it could get an 8. You send it in again, it could get a 9. You send it in again, it could get a 7 because it's the grader's opinion. Well, that's all good and well, except when you look at the prices that we, the collectors, are paying for the difference. That card in an 8, it's like a $200 card. So a Rickey Henderson rookie card in an 8 is $200. And the president of PSA said, if I send it in again, it could get a 9. Well, if I send it in again, it gets a 9. A 9 sells for 10 times what an 8 sells for. A 9 is a $2,000 card. So we send it in, it gets an 8. It's a $200 card, assigned value. That's the selling price. That's the market. You send it again, it gets a 9. It's a $2,000 card. Now, this could potentially be the same card, according to their president. You send the card in again, and it could get a 7. Now it's a $100 card. So an 8 becoming a 7 cuts the value in half. A 8 becoming a 9 multiplies it by 10. So if they're saying that a card has a grade range up 1 or down 1, so really a grade range of 2, and we, the collecting community, apparently are buying this card if it has the 9 on it for $2,000, if it has the 8 on it for $200, and if it has the 7 on it for $100, I tend to lean toward buying a really nice looking 7. Because if you buy a really nice looking 7, you get a card that on a given day could have gotten a 9, but it's $100 instead of $2,000. Are we collectors of cards? Or are we collectors of assigned numbers from PSA? That's really the question. See, one of the reasons that I buy lower graded cards is because lower graded cards might still look nice. So I'm not saying I buy lower graded cards that look like they got run over by a truck. That's not what I tend to buy. I have some fairly rough cards, but most of my cards, I try to buy lower graded cards that have really nice eye appeal and they're nice to look at. There's nothing when I look at them, I go, oh, if it wasn't for that, right? To me, that's eye appeal. Eye appeal is I look at it, go, man, that's a nice card. And most people just don't say, oh, if it wasn't for that big old blotch on his face, I'd really like it. Eye appeal is you look at the card and there's nothing to really distract you and take away from the beauty of the card. That's how I collect. Is that the right way to collect? Not necessarily. And that's the beauty of collecting, is we can all enjoy it in different ways. This is just how I do it. I do it by buying lower graded cards that I think look nicer than the grade because I'm paying the price of the grade even though I think it looks nicer than that. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna show you 10 cards from my collection. And this all started as, some people have said, you should show your collection more often, Greg. And I'm like, yeah, I just tend to think people would find that boring. So what I do instead is I try to find some twist to include when I'm showing my collection. So these are 10 cards in my collection that I enjoy having in my collection. And I'm not planning on them leaving my collection. But instead of just simply showing you the 10, I decided, let's take a look at them without revealing the grade. And you look at them and you say, what grade do you think that card appears to be from the naked eye? Now again, if I get out the Hubble telescope and I look, there might be some little mark on there, there might be some little indentation. And that might be the reason that the technical grade is what it is. But here are 10 cards from my collection. All of them are graded below 5. Again, to me, under 5 would mean that it's, a lower graded card. A higher graded card would be, kind of above 5. So these are below 5 grades. I want you to see if you can predict what the grade of the cards is before I reveal the grade. 10 cards. Let me know in the comments below, how many did you get right? And how many were you close and how many were you way off? But more than that, I also want to know, which of these cards were you most surprised by the grade? Because to me, I look at these 10 cards and I go, I'm happy to pay the price of a 4, because to me, that looks like a 5 or a 6, but it's a 4, so I only have to pay 4 prices. Are there any ones that you said, man, that really looked undergraded? That's my question for you. Predict the grade, how many you get right, and which card looks were you the most surprised by the grade? I'm not necessarily saying any of these cards have the wrong grade. In fact, I think 2 or 3 of them have the right grade. I think several are undergraded in my eyes. But I want to know that. I love these cards. I think they're gorgeous cards. Take a look and let me know what you think.
All right, so first up, we've got one of my favorite players of all time, Ted Williams. I love Ted Williams. I love his 56 Topps card. I bought this one, I'd say 3 years ago now. Two years ago. I absolutely love it. I think the color pops. I think the centering is pretty darn good. And it just suits my eye. I'm sure there are flaws that other people might see, but not that my eye sees. And so that's always really the goal, is find cards that just look good to me. And if they're in a low grade, that means they're affordable. Clean back on it, super clean front on it, no creases or wrinkles. Again, I absolutely love the card. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at it here. What do you think this graded? Obviously, I have it covered up. What grade do you think that card, not what grade did it receive, but what should it receive? And let's then compare that to what it did receive. So I'll go ahead and peel this back. And this received a 3.5. To me, it looks better than a 3.5. So if I can pay 3.5 prices for it, that is fantastic. All right, second card up is going to be a 52 Bowman Mini Minoso. He has 2 rookie cards. One is the 52 Topps, and one is this 52 Bowman. I actually picked this card up, believe it or not, on Whatnot. There was a Whatnot sale, and I was looking for this card, and it popped up, and I said, that checks all the boxes for me. Nice looking back on it. Centering's not perfect, but the image on this card is tough. The image on it is commonly distorted. The registration is not good, but this one is just crisp. The corners are solid. So if we take a closer look at this one, what do you think this card should receive? Not what do you think it did receive. What should that card receive? Now, again, if you think it's less than what it is, that's fine. If you think it's higher than what it is, that's fine. But to me, it looks better than the grade, which is fantastic. So what did that card receive? It got a 4. I mean, to me, I think it's a strong 5. I don't think it's a 6, but I think it's a 5 card. Well, if it was a 5 card, the price would have been double. So because it had a 4 on it, and I love the looks of it, I am thrilled to have it for a cheaper price. All right, my next card I bought not all that long ago, so some of you may remember this one. I bought it at a card show I actually set up at. So this Jim Brown card, this is a 1960 Topps Jim Brown, his 3rd card. I think it's a spectacular card. Corners are great. Now the back centering, you can see side to side there, is off for sure. But the front centering is really good. There's not a lot of the chipping along the green like you sometimes see, but look at that front centering. And again, the corners are really good. And so, I don't know. I mean, I owned this card before in a 7, and it was about 80-20 centered. This one, I think, has just fabulous eye appeal. So what should this card get? Just looking at it, again, it has no creases, has no wrinkles. Looking at that card, what should it get? Well, let's take a look at what it did receive. And this one received a PSA 4. Now, to me, this card looks like at least a 6 for me. Now, I'm sure technically if you get out the Hubble telescope, you can see a lot of, issues with it, but they don't bother me. All right, next I've got my T206 Christy Matthews card. I haven't shown this one in a while. I think it's really well centered. The color, I can tell you, is really good. Color totally pops. There's no crease on it. There's a little tiny scratch near his hat, but no crease. Back's a little off center. It's a sweet cat back. I mean, it doesn't have sharp corners, but I mean, for a card that's 115 years old, it's pretty good. And again, the centering, the color, registration all look really good to me. And with pre-war cards, those are all three considerations. So let's take a closer look at it here. Again, sure, it's got a touch. That top right corner's got a little issue. I'm not claiming this card is a 7 by any means, but I think it's better than the grade it received. So what grade do you think it received? Well, it got a 2. When I think of a 2, I don't think of a card that looks like that. I don't think of a card that is well-centered, good color, good clarity. I think that's a fantastic 2, which means I got it at a bargain. Next up, I haven't shown this card in a long time. My 1960 Carl Yastrzemski, you could call it his rookie card or his prospect card. I think the centering is dynamite. I think the corners are fantastic. Now, this particular set and this particular card is kind of commonly known for having a lot of the black printer marks on the front of it. You can see the back looks really nice. This one's got a little bit of the printer marks, but not many. Not many. It's pretty darn good. So what kind of grade does that card deserve? Again, let's take a closer look at it here. I like the centering. I like the corners. I like the image. I like the color. I love the card. So it didn't really matter what the grade was, although a low grade means it's going to be more affordable. So what do you think it received? Well, what it did receive is a 4. Does that card look like a 4 to you? To me, it's got the eye appeal of a 6. So if I can pay 4 prices for it, fabulous. All right, here's another card. Oh, I picked this one up maybe 7 or 8 months ago. This is Hugh Duffy, a Hall of Famer, batted over 400. In some record books, has the highest batting average in a season. Josh Gibson currently holds that mark now with the inclusion of the Negro League stats. It's got a little mark on the back, which I pointed out there. But, I mean, it's got good centering. That's a sharp card. And the color's dynamite. So what do you think that card should get? Not what did it get, but what does it look like? Now, again, I don't see a wrinkle or a crease. If I see one, I'll point it out. So here it is. Look at those corners. Look at that centering. Look at that image. Look at that color. What should that card get? What should it get? Well, let's see what it did get. It got a 2.5. Does that look like a 2.5? When I think in my mind of a 2.5, I don't think of a card that looks like that was printed 115 years ago. I'm probably missing something, which is fine. Again, technically, does it deserve a 2.5? Maybe, I guess. Oh, one of my favorite cards. The 1955 Topps Jackie Robinson. My favorite Jackie Robinson card. I love this card so much. I bought this one maybe 10 months ago. And look at the back. Look how clean that thing is. The image there. Look at the cartoon. Talks about Iron Man McGinnity. That's fun. About how many double headers he pitched, which is crazy. pitchers nowadays go 6 innings. But back to the Jackie. I mean, I think it's a spectacular card. So what is the eye appeal of the card? Again, not necessarily the technical grade, but just looking at it. What does that card deserve in your eyes? We'll go ahead and zoom in slowly on it. So what kind of grade should that get? And again, it doesn't really matter to me, the grade. If the grade is low, it just means it's more affordable. This is the way to benefit from the grading system. And it got a 4. I don't know. I think that's a really, really nice 4. So if I can buy it at 4 prices, which I tried really hard to get really nice examples at the comp for that grade. And then I feel like I got a better card than the price. All right, here is my Bobby Jones rookie card. So this is a Lambert and Butler card. You can see right there, there's a little, I don't know if I'd call it a crease because I don't think it goes all the way through. It'd be a wrinkle, I guess, and there's a little mark on the edge there. Centering's great. Clarity on these cards are fantastic. There's the back. Back's a little off center, maybe 60-40. So I just love this card. I'm thrilled to have one. Again, this is a Bobby Jones rookie card. So let's take a closer look at this one. So here it is. Yeah, I mean, the corners are touched for sure. So what kind of grade does that card present as, we'll say? Well, let's take a look at what its technical grade is. The technical grade is if I can get this off, 2. I don't know. When I think of a 2, I think of a card that doesn't look that nice. And this card has fantastic eye appeal for me. It's a beautiful looking card, no distracting flaws. Is it perfect? Far from it. But I think it looks better than the 2 price that I paid for it. All right, so how about the next one here? We've got a Monty Irvin rookie card. Now, he does have a 51 Topps Redback card, but then he's got the 51 Bowman, which is the one I think PSA considers his rookie. You can see the back. Now, again, this card doesn't have any creases or wrinkles. And take another look at the front. It's not perfectly centered, but it's well centered. Definitely got rounding on the corners. So is it, I don't know, what should that receive? Well, again, if we're looking at it under high power magnification, I'm sure there are some flaws that we're not seeing just from this perspective, but there it is. Again, it's got some rounding on the corners. That top right corner has a little issue, and then the side-to-side center. But I just think it's a beautiful card. Isn't that a beautiful card? Beautiful card. Love it. So, what is the grade? It received a 3. Again, when I think of a 3, what does a 3 look like? I don't think of a card that looks that nice. I got a really good deal on this card. I've owned this one, I don't know, how long have I owned this one? 1.5 years, maybe? And Monty Irvin, obviously a Hall of Famer, had a really good Negro League career before coming to the majors. It's just a card I wanted to have in my collection. Now, here is one of my absolute favorite cards of all time. The 1950 Bowman Larry Doby. I bought this card raw, and I sent it into PSA a couple years ago. And I'm looking for a crease. There's a little crease right there at the top. It's hard to even show it, but there is a little crease up there. Corners have some rounding. Back is really nice. Centering on the back. It's just clean back. Centering around. It's not perfect all the way around, but it's pretty darn nice, right? Isn't that a nice looking card? I love this card. I love the 1950 Bowman Larry Doby. And here is a closer look at this one. So again, it does have a little wrinkle up by his hat. So what should that do to the grade? Touches on the corners. Look at the color on it. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful card. So, what do you think it received? Some of you may remember from a PSA reveal a couple years ago. A 2. I just think that card looks much better than what a 2 would look like. Now, does that mean that it doesn't technically deserve a 2? No, I don't think it necessarily means that. But that's a beautiful card in my eyes. What do you think about this? Eye appeal. Buying the card, not the grade. I mean, I bought the card, not the grade, in all of those examples, didn't I? Let me know what you think.